Okay, I want to work with you on number 14 on your review. This one is asking us to take this original absolute value graph, or this function, and write the inverse relations that might be used as functions. So let me show you what they're asking you to do. Let's go ahead and graph this original function. The vertex is at negative 6, 0. That's here, negative 2, 4, 6, 0. Its A is negative, so its slope is a negative 1 on the right-hand side, so it's facing down. It's a reflection across this x-axis. So here's your original graph of the function. And what I want to do is I know that if I were to write the inverse or graph the inverse of this function, it would not be a function. The inverse of this graph is not a function. So I'm going to just divide this right down the middle, right at the vertex, and make it into two parts. I'm going to label them part A and part B. So for part A, we're going to deal with that as our g of x. And let's go ahead and write this part of our graph as if it's just a line. And then we're going to restrict the domain and say that it's a line, but it's really just a ray that goes from negative 6 to infinity. So for graph for part A, my g of x will be a line with a slope of negative 1 with a y-intercept, if you look at the graph, of negative 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it is negative x minus 6, and its domain is x is greater than or equal to negative 6. And let's go ahead and write the range. The range is y is less than or equal to 0. If I want to find the inverse for this, g inverse of x, I'm going to just write this as originally as y equals, because I want to switch my x and y. So to find the inverse, I'm going to switch the x and y, and then solve for y, which gives me y is equal to negative x minus 6. And I also switch my domain and my range because I switched my x and y. So my domain is now x is less than or equal to 0, and my range is y is greater than or equal to negative 6. So this g inverse of x is one of my pairs of functions with this restriction. So there's one. Then we're going to look at side B. I may not have enough room, but let's look at side B. Side B, we're going to call that our h of x side, and the original graph has a slope of positive 1, and its y-intercept is probably up here at positive 6. So the equation for that one is x plus 6, and the domain that I'm using is x is less than or equal to negative 6. My range is also less than or equal to 0. To write the inverse, h inverse of x, I switch the x and y, so I have x is equal to y plus 6, or y is equal to x minus 6. So my h inverse of x is x minus 6, and I switch my domain and range. So my my domain is x is less than or equal to 0, and my range is y is less than or equal to negative 6.